because Russia have expressed concern over a U.S. anti-doping bill that grants officials the power to prosecute individuals responsible for doping conspiracies. The legislation called the Rodchenkov Anti-Doping Act received formal approval in the U.S. Senate on Monday. Russia said the bill evokes nothing but concern, according to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. Unlike the World Anti-Doping Agency, that is WADA, which can sanction athletes, the Rodchenkov Act targets the entourage of athletes, coaches, agents, managers, and can lead to fines of up to $1 million or a prison term of up to 10 years. What is more, the act will give extraterrestrial power to pursue individuals outside the U.S. territory. We talk to the head of legal services of anti-doping of Kenya, that is Bildad Rongocho, who is joining us shortly. This is very interesting because what is happening in the U.S. is that the bill has passed through the Senate approval and it's only awaiting the signature of the U.S. president. I don't know if that will be Donald Trump or it will be Joe Biden when he comes into office on January 20th, or whoever that comes into office, that will be signed. And what will happen is this: the U.S. is seeking the powers to grant its officials the power to go out there, outside the U.S. Territory, and indict or just grab anyone who is believed to have engaged in doping conspiracies that will have affected the U.S. athletes. That is big news because just like the Anti-Monitoring Act, where the U.S. officials can pursue anyone outside the U.S. territory, that could be the scenario that will unfold. And I can see my guest, that is Bildad Rongocho, trying to set himself up. I don't know if he can hear me now. Bildad?
Morning. I can hear you very well, Robin.
Yes. How's your morning?
Robin.
Yes, I can see you are really trying to put together things there.
Oh, yes. I am actually not operating from my office today.
Yes.
I am in Mombasa for a small conference.
Oh, that's good. And I hope it's about the war on doping. That's what we are doing for the country.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That is what we are working on, and the fight goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
yeah, you must have read what is happening in the United States, where the Senate approved the other day a bill that seeks to give the U.S. authorities powers to pursue anyone involved in anti-doping conspiracies. I don't know, what is the reading of Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, because you are the people tasked with the task of ensuring that we win this war on doping.
Well, Robin, the Rodchenkov Act is a very interesting piece of legislation. It's an American statute, and I believe it's only one signature away from becoming or coming into force. Now, the Act seeks to criminalize doping conspiracies
yes.
In international or major international sporting events. Well, Robin, just to put into perspective what yes. this Act entails, is that that major international sporting event, one, must be approved by WADA, so that the Act can have jurisdiction over that particular event. And secondly, that in that particular event, one or more American athletes must be contestants. And thirdly, that at least one or more U.S. corporations or companies must either be sponsoring that particular event or have broadcasting rights over that particular event. And lastly, that at least you must have 3 or more athletes from other countries who are participating in that particular event. Now, the Act has gained a lot of popularity. And I can tell you, Robin, that it's a critic from so many quarters.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why. First of all, I think there was the misconception, and I don't know whether that has already been cleared, that the Act is targeting athletes. Far from it, actually.
Okay.
The act in its reading is very express. It does not touch on athletes, but it is basically aimed at these other persons who are in support of athletes actions.
That's the coaches, the managers, the agents, and all that.
Oh yes, oh yes. These are the people. In fact, if you look even at the word, the name of the act itself, it is derived from the Russian whistleblower, Rodchenkov.
Yes.
Now, the main concern of the international community on anti-doping is that we have been sanctioning our athletes. But what happens to the people behind or who conspire for these athletes to dope? So that is the main concern that has been there. And that is why this act has now been enacted, so that these people do not get off the hook. They can actually be charged. I mean, there is the issue of the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the act, which is a very interesting reading. The U.S. purports to be able to investigate and even prosecute these other persons who are involved in conspiracies to dope. Well, are they allowed to do that? Can they do that? Did they consult the over 190 countries that are signatories to ODA?
Yes.
I mean, so many issues have arisen out of that. But one of the things that we all agree as members who participate in the anti-doping crusade is that instead of charging athletes, ban them from participating. That is sufficient. That is sufficient punishment to them. Now, there was the chairperson of the International Weightlifting Body who covered up over 40 doping cases. Yes. And when that came to the fore, the only thing that happened to him is that he resigned. In fact, there's a joke doing the rounds that he's sipping his cocktail somewhere in the Bahamas instead of rotting up in jail somewhere. So, I mean, Robin, just basically to inform you about the benefits of this act is that it will, one, enhance the fight against doping. It purports also to protect whistleblowers. Yeah? And it also gives the American athletes an opportunity to seek restitution if they suffer because of cheats in this international competition.
Let's put this into context. Let us put this into context for the benefit of our viewers. Say, for example, we have several Kenyan athletes who are now serving bans because of drug abuse or drug cheating. If the U.S. feels that that athlete won a gold medal or won prize money, yet he cheated, he used drugs, then they can come for the coach, for the manager of that athlete, not the athlete.
Not the athlete. It is only the manager, the agent, the coaches who can actually be arrested. But remember that, Robin, this act, the way it is worded, it will apply twofold. One, it will apply to those countries that have no legal framework to prosecute these cases. Absolutely no framework. So, and I can just to make the viewers, rest easy. In Kenya, under Section 42 of the Anti-Doping Act, we have the legal framework to prosecute these cases. So we don't have a scenario where this particular act will apply to our Kenyan, our countrymen and women. The only way that that can apply is if a country that has the legal framework to be able to prosecute these offenses fails to do so either unwillingly or if they lack the capacity to be able to do that. And this is why I call upon the Kenyan government. It is the high time that we actually, the government pumps in resources, fund the agency, build the capacity to make the agency able to prosecute these offenses. Otherwise, the country will be exposed to this particular act.
If you are just joining us, we are talking to Bildad Rongocho, that is the head of legal services at Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. And we are discussing about a piece of legislation that has been approved in the U.S. Senate. It's called the Rodchenkov Act, and it seeks to give the U.S. officials some extraterritorial powers that if an athlete dopes and that athlete gains an advantage over a U.S. athlete, they'll be able to come, say, for instance, come to Kenya, seek to arrest the managers, the handlers of that athlete, and then seek restitution. And that is why Bildad Rongocho is here to tell us what is the reading, how have the ADAC understood this piece of legislation. And one of the questions I would like to ask you, Bildad, are there any similarities between what ADAC is doing and what that bill seeks to achieve?
The similarities are quite few. Mm-hmm. Apart from the fact that both acts are aimed at fighting doping in the world. Both of them have captured the aspect of the other person, because our act also now under Section 42. Other persons are listed therein: doctors, pharmacists. All these people are listed so that if they commit these offences, yes, they're able to be charged. Other than that, there are major differences between the two pieces of legislation. And our act does not have does not give this country extraterritorial jurisdiction at all. It doesn't. We do not offer restriction to our athletes. But let me tell you something, Robin. Yeah. As an agency and as a country, we welcome this particular act. And we say, let the federal agents investigate, compile these files, collect this evidence, share the same with us. We as a country have the legal framework, we have the ability, and we are willing to prosecute these athletes. As we speak, Robin, actually, we have about 5 cases that are going on in this country in various locals and at various stages against athletes and against this so-called athlete support personnel.
Quite interesting. Now, just help me to understand this, that, well, ADAC welcomes the act, the enactment of that piece of legislation, but you said that it will also require the approval of WADA. But even if it doesn't get that approval of WADA, is there a chance that the Rodchenkov Act will affect the operations of Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya?
To an extent, yes. And I want to bring it out this way. One, there's a very high likelihood of overlapping of laws. And that is not procedural at all. Because once we have our own legal framework to prosecute these particular offences, then we do not require the Rodchenkov Act to come and come into play in this country. Yes. That is one. Two, there's the issue of whistleblowers. And I want to explain this. Yes. I don't know, Robin, I seem to be having a challenge. With power. I don't know if you can give me a few seconds. I have it sorted out by my tech.
That's okay. That's okay, Bildad. I'll give you a few seconds to sort that out. And if you are joining us, we are talking about the Rodchenkov Act that was passed by the U.S. Senate on Monday. And that bill seeks to criminalize doping conspiracies. And Kenya has been one of the most affected countries where there have been allegations that it is the managers, it is the handlers, it is the coaches, it is the agents who have been facilitating doping cases in Kenya. And as we speak today, we have quite a number of high-profile Kenyan athletes who are serving suspension. Of course, one of them being Asbel Kiprop, who is an Olympic champion. Manangoi is already serving his ban because of missing some doping controls, because he missed the deadline. He couldn't be tested. Of course, Wilson Kipsang is one of the athletes that is also facing such sanctions. But the question is that the Kenyan government, the Kenyan parliament enacted the anti-doping agency, the act that created the anti-doping agency of Kenya. And what has come out is that there are quite a number of cases that are being prosecuted. And if you go to the Sports Dispute Tribunal, some of those cases have come up. And the World Anti-Doping Agency and the Athletics Integrity Unit has worked together with Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya to ensure that such cheats are brought to book and they are suspended. And as you can see, we are talking to the head of legal services of Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. And he says that Kenya welcomes that kind of legislation, although Kenya doesn't have the extraterrestrial, that is jurisdiction, to go out there and prosecute anyone or investigate anyone who is involved in drug conspiracies. That is very interesting because it will create a lot of debate, and we just hope that that will work. And I can see my guest is having some challenges. I hope he'll get back in time so that we continue talking about this. But here at KTN, we seek to create that debate, ask people to give us a chance to tell Kenyans what is happening. We take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue with international news.